Remarkable journey. How one woman discovered the hidden heart of a fearful millionaire in 30 days. Sara stood under gleaming chandeliers of the university gala, the tension in her chest rising with each passing moment. Here she was, a 38-year-old single mother and respected professor, yet the weight of her family's expectations felt suffocating. The air crackled with laughter from esteemed colleagues, yet Sara felt isolation, tethered to her role as guardian to her siblings after their father's tragic passing. It was maddening how accolades and recognition meant little when the bills screamed for attention, relentless reminders of a life half-lived. She had sacrificed her personal aspirations for years, pouring everything into her work and the upbringing of her younger siblings. Yet there she stood, feeling adrift amidst a sea of laughter, grappling with paralyzing doubts. Would they ever see her as more than just a dedicated sister and professor? Would her dreams wither away as she remained buried in responsibilities? Her gaze drifted across the room, landing on a reclusive figure leaning against the wall. Jack. The millionaire's air of detachment seemed conspicuous amid the celebratory atmosphere. He avoided eye contact, appearing overwhelmed by the crowd, yet firmly entrenched in his isolation. His guarded demeanor resonated within Sara, mirroring her own hidden battles. In him, she recognized the pain of expectation, the silent burden of shadows buried beneath wealth. What lay beneath that exterior? Briefly, her curiosity flickered to life, pushing her to step closer. Torn between the familiar comfort of academia and the chaotic allure of exploring the unknown depths of Jack's life, she hesitated. Could connecting with him relieve her burden, or would it just add to her growing list of moral dilemmas? What if he uncovers her own vulnerabilities, the ones she fought so vigorously to safeguard? Before she could find resolution, the simmering internal conflict erupted. Had she been selfish to even entertain the idea of drawing closer to someone who might complicate her already tangled life? Voice shaking, she reminded herself of her unwavering commitment to family, the promise she made to sacrifice for their future. Every moment spent with Jack would risk the delicate balance she held. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weight of her obligations pulsed through her like a drum, louder than the conversations surrounding her. Over coffee breaks, the growing connection between them deepened as her fascination with Jack turned into something more. Yet, every moment shared chipped away at her resolve to remain distant. Sara's mind raced. Could she embrace the vulnerability with him? Or would it mean abandoning her family's interests? A betrayal she couldn't fathom. As she poised on the brink of discovery, Jack's past loomed large, grotesque reminders of heartbreak lingering in his eyes. With each shared hour, their intricacies entwined, but with every flicker of hope came the swelling fear of losing everything she'd built alone. The stakes had never been higher, the unsettling truth was brewing. What if Jack's unraveling secrets led her down a path she couldn't return from? As uncertainty clouded her heart, Sara wrestled with the morality of love amidst ruin. A decision awaited that could alter the very course of her life and their intertwining fates. Sara moved through the plush carpet of the banquet hall, each step weighted by the anticipation gnawing at her insides. She had always prided herself on her rationality, yet Jack's presence clouded her judgment. He felt like an enigma, an intricate puzzle with pieces that dangled just out of reach. With each encounter, her heart fluttered, yet her mind screamed caution. What compelled her to delve deeper into his world when her own life hung in such precarious balance? In truth, Jack was not just a distraction. He represented an undeniable pull toward a life she had denied herself. As they exchanged stories over coffee beneath the university's sprawling oak trees, Sara felt an urge to unveil her own hidden fears and aspirations. However, the thought of exposing her vulnerabilities was daunting. There lay the risk of judgment, rejection, and the possibility of unearthing feelings she had diligently buried. Her professional resolve began to fracture as she considered the complications that followed intimacy. What possibility awaited her if she dared to cross the chasm between them? On the surface, Jack was a wealthy millionaire, but beneath that facade, she sensed a kindred spirit wrestling with his demons. Perhaps together they could both find solace in their shared struggles. Still, Sara couldn't ignore the creeping fear that had started to weave itself into her consciousness. The fear of intimacy and the fear of failure. Each interaction with Jack prompted a confrontation with her own identity. Was she a caretaker, forever inhibited by her responsibilities? Or did she possess the strength to reclaim a part of herself she had long repressed? She pondered her aspirations outside the confines of academia. Would she dare to pursue her interests in writing or public speaking? As she contemplated this, clarity emerged. Every choice to engage with Jack also served as a means to explore her own latent desires. Yet with each realization came the specter of guilt. Was it selfish to consider her own growth while her family depended on her unflinching devotion? She envisioned her younger siblings, their hopeful expressions and ambitious dreams reflected in her sacrifices. They required stability, but so did she, albeit in a different sense. The struggle for her attention tugged at her heartstrings. Could she balance the roles of a doting sister and an aspiring woman eager to live for herself? The more she was drawn to Jack, the more aware she became of the duality of her existence, both a pillar of support and an individual longing for liberation. She felt the tension rise like an uncoiling spring with every passing day, leaving a knot in her stomach. Maybe it was time to engage in an honest dialogue with Jack, one that transcended pleasantries and unveiled the raw truths that lay beneath their witty banter. But opening up meant bracing for the fallout that could ensue, a thought that sent her heart racing. And as Jack cast his solemn gaze on her, the weight of their unspoken connection seemed to contradict her fears. Feeling the shift, she realized that to engage him more deeply might not only bring her closer to understanding him, but also to understanding herself. Sara calculated the risk against the potential rewards, her resolve building alongside uncertainty. Perhaps the very thing she feared, breaking down her walls, was precisely what she needed to confront her tangled relationship with herself and her aspirations. With every fragmented interaction fading into a tapestry of connection, she steeled her mind for the conversation that loomed larger with each passing day. The time had come to face Jack and reveal not just the woman she wanted him to see, but the woman she wanted to become, a decision that would either shatter her carefully constructed world or unravel an unexpected path towards liberation. Would she have the courage to finally leap into the unknown? The soft hum of conversation enveloped Sara as she entered the coffee shop, a refuge adorned with rustic charm and the comforting aroma of freshly ground beans. She scanned the room, her heart hammering expectantly, searching for Jack amidst the casual bustle. She had rehearsed her words countless times in her mind, each iteration more poignant, yet equally terrifying. As she spotted him, his focused gaze drawn to a book, she felt a tingle of connection, a desire to bridge the gap that had lingered like a specter between them. Today, she would discover if she could dismantle the carefully confusing veil between them. With each step towards his table, she felt the weight of conflicting emotions pushing against her resolve. She was not just confronting Jack. She was confronting herself. "Hey," she said softly, settling into the chair opposite him, her palms pressing against her knees as if grounding her jittering nerves. Jack lifted his eyes from the pages, surprise flashing across his features, before they settled into something softer. "Sara, I didn't expect to see you so soon." The playfulness they shared in past conversations felt distant compared to the gravity of this moment. "I wanted to talk. About us," she began, her voice carrying a tremor that betrayed her steadiness. He closed the book, the gesture signaling seriousness, and leaned forward. "I was hoping you would. It's about time, don't you think?" The underlying tension shifted, morphing into something surprisingly liberating. Sara inhaled deeply, summoning the courage buried beneath layers of self-doubt, and spoke with clarity she hadn't anticipated. "I've been thinking about everything, about my life, my responsibilities, and how I feel around you. As the words flowed, Sara felt barriers begin to crumble, piece by piece. Here was her chance, not just to reveal her heart, but to leave behind the chains that bound her. She spoke of her aspirations, writing, speaking, her voice gaining confidence with each admission. She watched Jack's expression shift from curiosity to understanding. "You see," she continued, "every moment I spend with you makes me confront the truth about myself, my fears, my desires. Yet I worry. I feel selfish for wanting to break free." Jack's brow furrowed, reflecting a depth of contemplation. "Sara, I think you have every right to pursue your dreams. There's nothing selfish about wanting more out of life. We need to take care of ourselves before we can truly support others." His words sparked a flicker of hope within her. Perhaps this connection extended beyond mere distraction. Maybe, just maybe, it could illuminate a path to the woman she yearned to become, if only she could grasp it firmly. She realized then that sharing her vulnerabilities hadn't just revealed her to Jack. It had unveiled dimensions of herself she had kept hidden even from herself. "But what do we do with this?" Sara asked, her gaze penetrating his. The question hung precariously in the air between them, a tether holding them both to the uncertainty of mutual exploration. Jack paused, securing her attention with his earnest stare. "We face it together. Just as you're discovering parts of yourself, I find I'm doing the same. Perhaps we can navigate this tangled journey side by side." His sincerity washed over her like a balm. A wave of trepidation recoiled within, but it was met with a burgeoning sense of possibility. Could they truly embark on this journey? As Sara absorbed his words, the realization dawned. Learning to trust each other might become an essential part of her growth, both personally and professionally. The atmosphere crackled with potential as she considered their paths interlinked with one another. They were no longer two separate lives, but two entwined narratives searching for resolution. But as Sara's thoughts settled, another realization crept in. What if the depths of Jack's fears ran darker than she anticipated? What if navigating this relationship unearthed demons neither of them was prepared to face? Sara left the coffee shop with a newfound sense of purpose fluttering in her chest. This conversation with Jack hadn't just opened a door to exploring their relationship. It had cracked open her own inner world, revealing complexities she had long neglected. Walking down the street, the cool air felt invigorating against her skin, a stark contrast to the warmth of the intimate dialogue. Each step felt lighter, yet a dark undertow of worry lingered. Trust had never come easily to her. The scars of previous disappointments echoed in her thoughts. Would Jack remain steadfast as she unearthed layers of herself? Or would her unfolding journey risk driving him away? The questions spiraled as she navigated back to her apartment, each one more daunting than the last. In her solitude, she turned to her writing. Her laptop flickered to life, the blank page beckoning her. Words had always been her escape, a way to sort through chaos. Yet today, they held even greater significance. With fingers poised over keys, she began to sift through her emotions. She was no longer just writing about life. She was beginning to live it. "I want to be a voice for those who feel silenced," she typed fervently, emboldened by her earlier revelations. The evening transformed into a session of catharsis, thoughts flowing with clarity. Here was a flicker of her true self, a vision fueled by passion, ignited by the potential of her relationship with Jack. But what if she failed? The shadows of doubt whispered, tugging at her confidence. The notion of vulnerability, of truly exposing her inner self, felt like walking a tightrope. Would Jack be the safety net she desperately hoped he would be, or would he fall short of her expectations? Sara paused, staring blankly at the screen. This was the crux of her struggle. Her desire for authenticity battled against her fear of judgment. If she laid bare her ambitions, would Jack truly support her, or would he retreat into his own insecurities? Just as uncertainty began to encroach upon her newfound clarity, her phone buzzed, jolting her from thought. An invitation from Jack. "Meet me at the gallery tonight," it read simply. Sara's heart raced. Was he seeking deeper understanding, or merely trying to distract himself from the darker corners of his psyche? With the choice laid before her, she felt a swell of determination rising. This was her chance to balance her exploration with commitment, a test of their growing bond. She could confront not just Jack's fears, but also her own hesitations about forming connections. As she arrived at the gallery, the twinkling lights illuminating the works of emerging artists created a soft backdrop of inspiration. Jack stood at the center, an island of calm amidst the sea of bustling patrons. When he noticed her, his face broke into a smile, a silent invitation that felt almost magnetic. A host of emotions accompanied her into the gallery. This was more than an outing. It was a setting for revelations. Perhaps they would share more than just pleasantries. Would their paths intersect here, leading to the unearthing of vital truths about one another? Sara found herself lingering by a striking portrait that seemed to echo the turmoil inside her. The artist's brush strokes depicted a figure caught between shadows and light, a portrayal of tension that resonated with her heart. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Jack said softly, filling the silence that had enveloped them. His eyes held an inquisitive curiosity as they studied the piece together. "Almost haunting," Sara replied, aware that the words reflected her own internal struggle. "It captures the essence of conflict, doesn't it? The need to confront what lies beneath the surface." Jack turned, significance etched across his features. "Just like us, then, navigating through our own shadows?" In that moment, Sara recognized the transformative potential of their unfolding connection. She resolved to embrace both the fear and possibility that came with it. They were on the brink of something profound, and for the first time, the murky uncertainty felt more like an invitation than a barrier. But as Jack took her hand, a chill of apprehension coursed through her. What lay ahead? Would they delve into the shadows, or remain fixed in the light? Sara's heart raced, contemplating not just what they might discover about each other, but also what darker truths about themselves they might inadvertently unveil. The gallery buzzed with excitement, bright colors swirling around the edges of Sara's vision. As she stood hand in hand with Jack, a maelstrom of thoughts coiled tightly in her chest. Engaging with him felt like stepping onto a stage, her mind instinctively rehearsing lines of authenticity while her heart yearned for openness. "Sara?" Jack's voice broke through her spiral. "What are you thinking?" The question hovered, a request for her to be vulnerable despite the fear curling in her stomach. Taking a breath, she glanced at the painting again. "I'm just realizing how much we both hide. It's like this art is trying to tell the truth of who we are amidst layers of chaos." Jack regarded her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "And are you ready to start revealing your layers?" His challenge simmered in the air, and Sara felt the gravity of the moment. Could she truly allow him to see her hidden depths? The thought was terrifying, yet exhilarating. "Are you?" she countered, testing his resolve. "Touché." He smiled, a flicker of admiration in his eyes. The challenge transformed their surroundings. Suddenly, the weight of expectation bore down on them both. Sara sensed they were at a crossroads where honesty could redefine their connection. Amidst the swirling gallery, Jack guided her toward a quieter corner where the noise melted away. Here, the art felt more intimate, the emotions amplified, shapes and colors blurred into representations of discord and unity. "Let's start small," he suggested, his tone lighter. "What's the most recent thing you've been afraid of?" A deep breath caught in Sara's throat. The answer was immediate yet fraught with danger. Would admitting it shatter the walls she was still trying to construct? "I've been afraid of losing control of who I am," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Like, in trying to connect with someone, I might become something I'm not." Jack nodded, processing her words. "I think we're all afraid of that," he mused. "But I believe the moments of true intimacy come when we allow the chaos to show." His insight struck Sara, sending ripples of self-awareness through her. Their exchange felt like much more than an unveiling. It was a dance of vulnerability. Yet, there was still a secret thread that bound her, an anchor that prevented her from fully letting go. What hidden truth lurked beneath her surface? "What about you?" she asked, a spark of courage igniting within her. "What fear have you grappled with that holds you back?" He was quiet for a moment, weighing Sara's question, as if the atmosphere shifted palpable weight. "I tend to chase success, thinking it defines me. But I wonder, if people only see the millionaire, will they ever see me? The sadness laced in his voice resonated with Sara, creating a moment where their fears intertwined. In that raw honesty, she found a mirror reflecting her own fears. They were both intricate tapestries woven from past wounds and present struggles. Maybe we need to stop defining ourselves by what we achieve, Sara offered, her heart racing as if she were daring him to explore a new horizon. What if we built our identities outside of that? As Jack's gaze steadied on hers, a momentary silence enveloped them. They were two imperfect souls navigating through the dichotomy of light and shadow. But as the gallery seemed to pulse with energy, Sara felt the urgency of her choice looming. Would she leap into this vulnerability or cower back into fear? Their breaths synchronized, an unspoken understanding hanging thick in the air. Was this the point where she could lay bare her ambitions, her aspirations, and reframe not just their connection, but her own identity as well? As the evening unfolded, amid whispers of creativity and artful expression, Sara knew she was edging closer to a revelation, not solely about Jack, but about herself, the intersection where her fears could meet her dreams. But just as she was about to open her mouth to reveal a deeper truth, Jack's phone buzzed loudly in his pocket, an intrusion that shattered the moment. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting subtly as he read the message. The change was subtle but noticeable, the air growing heavy once more. "What is it?" she managed, her pulse quickening with apprehension. Jack hesitated, the tension palpable. "I need to take this," he said softly, stepping away. Sara stood rooted in place, heart racing, a sense of foreboding washing over her. What had she almost shared? And now, what awaited her on the other side of this fragile revelation? As the separation between them grew, Sara felt the weight of unfinished words pressing against her. The shadows within beckoned, promising that the next step put everything on the line. Realizing she was not just fearful of judgment, but also of discovery, Sara clutched her resolve. Would she gather the courage to reveal herself fully? The journey was escalating, and she could no longer hide. The weight of unanswered questions swirled in the air like the abstract strokes on the gallery walls. Sara stood frozen, her mind racing as Jack stepped away to take the call, creating a distance that felt both physical and emotional. The exhilaration from their earlier conversation was rapidly being replaced by an unsettling emptiness. What had she been on the verge of disclosing? Just moments before, she felt empowered, eager to shed her fears and reveal the layers that had long shielded her from authentic connection. Now, with Jack's absence resonating in the silent corners of the gallery, Sara struggled with the temptation to retreat back into the safety of her carefully constructed boundaries. Sensing impending vulnerability, she paced restlessly among the artwork, her fingers brushing against the canvas. The vibrant colors were a stark contrast to the shadows bending around her thoughts. She had always known that keeping walls high was safer. Yet here, faced with the possibility of intimacy, the facade started to crack. A realization settled in her mind. Fear was a parasitic hold on her life, draining her of the very essence that made her vibrant. If she remained bound by self-doubt, she would forever be confined to an incomplete version of herself, a mere spectator, rather than a participant in the bold colors of life. Sara revisited Jack's earlier words. What if the chaos of her identity could be an asset rather than a hindrance? The thought ignited a spark. She could confront her fears and transform them into stepping stones rather than barricades. This moment, charged with uncertainty, illuminated the path to self-discovery. Casting her gaze around the gallery, she noticed couples deeply engaged in conversations. Each shared moment was painted with raw emotion, an exchange that bound them closer together. Could she attain this freedom? Was she prepared to challenge the scripts she had rehearsed over the years? As Jack returned, his face mirrored the complexity of their shared vulnerability, his eyes still shadowed by the brief interruption. Sara felt her heart tighten with urgency. She needed to seize the moment before it slipped through her fingers. "Jack," she began, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. "I was thinking about what you said regarding how we define ourselves. I'm learning that maybe I've let fear dictate my identity for too long." He tilted his head slightly, curiosity drawing him closer. "What do you mean?" "I don't want to hide anymore," she declared, the words flowing with newfound determination. "I want to explore who I truly am, not just for myself but for others too. To connect without wearing a mask." An intimate silence enveloped them, charged with the weight of Sarah's confession. She watched as understanding flickered in his eyes. "That's a brave step, Sarah," he acknowledged softly, admiration threading through his voice. "But fear doesn't just dissipate. It's a battle we have to continually fight." "Maybe so," she replied, her pulse quickening at the realization of her own resolve. "But I want to confront it. I'm tired of being defined by my fears instead of my dreams. I want to take risks, grow, and embrace the chaos." Jack's expression shifted, a cautious pride emerging. "And how do you plan to do that?" With every word, Sarah felt herself transform, her confidence expanding as she spoke. "I want to step out of my comfort zone, seek new challenges, explore possibilities that threaten the very definition of who I think I am." The moment stretched between them, each weighing the implications of her declaration. Yet beneath the layered excitement, Sarah sensed a shadow looming, a fear that surged within her. The battle she wished to face wasn't just with the external world, but with the internal restraints that had been decades in the making. Jack's gaze seemed to urge her forward, challenging her to solidify her intent into action. But in doing so, would she expose herself to judgment in ways she never anticipated? She took a deep breath, resolved to confront both external expectations and her own wavering self-doubt in the journey ahead. "Let's both commit to exploring the unknown together," she suggested, the words escaping as a pact. As they considered the invitation, the hum of the gallery returned unceremoniously, and Sarah felt the chiseled edges of hope take shape. In those labyrinthine walls of color and emotion, she wondered how far this commitment to vulnerability would carry them. Would they forge paths into their unseen futures, or would the chaos they sought to embrace swallow them whole? In that moment, the uncertainty loomed as large as their ambitions, each uncertain yet emboldened by newfound resolve. What awaited them beyond the threshold of this moment? A true confrontation with their fears or an awakening to unexpected revelations? Jack's response hung in the air, suspended between hope and tension. Sarah felt the burn of anticipation coursing through her veins. It was as if a dam had broken. The flood of unvoiced aspirations and untapped potential surged forward, threatening to overwhelm her resolve. The cafe across the street beckoned with a cozy promise of candid conversations, where vulnerability could unfold over steaming mugs of coffee. "What if we start there?" she suggested, attempting to conceal the slight tremor in her voice. "A place away from all this," she gestured toward the gallery, "where we can truly talk." His smile was tentative yet encouraging. "Let's do it," he agreed, the easiness of his demeanor relieving some of the pressure building inside Sarah. As they strolled down the sun-dappled sidewalk, the world outside felt alive in stark contrast to the silence that had clung to her before. Each step was a gentle proclamation of her determination, and she could feel that she was taking more than just physical steps. She was marching toward a newfound reality. They settled into a small table, the clinking of cups, and the rich aroma of roasted coffee enveloping them. Jack settled in opposite her, his expression scrutinizing yet warm. Sarah's pulse quickened. This was it, the moment of exposure, the reckoning of her resolve against the creeping shadows of doubt. "Tell me more about this journey you want to embark on," Jack prodded, leaning in as if her words contained the key to untold secrets. "I think the first step," she started, her voice growing surer, "is to uncover what I've been avoiding. I need to face the root of my fears, confront the doubts that have held me hostage for so long." Jack nodded. "And what does that look like? What are those fears?" His question struck a chord deep within her, unearthing emotions she had buried beneath layers of coping mechanisms. It's fear of failure, fear of judgment, always feeling like I have to present a perfect version of myself. It's exhausting. The admission hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. She watched Jack's face for signs of judgment, but instead, it was a mask of understanding, a reflection of her own struggle. Everyone has their battles. he said softly. For me, it's been the pressure of those expectations, being someone others think I should be rather than just me. His confession peeled back another layer, revealing a man hidden behind riches and accolades, grappling with inner turmoil of his own. A flicker of connection sparked between them, intertwining their vulnerabilities like the threads of an intricate tapestry. "What will you do to break those patterns?" he asked, his voice threaded with genuine curiosity. With a mind racing toward uncharted possibilities, she felt every fiber of her being awakening. "I want to embrace discomfort," she declared, emboldening herself with conviction. "To take risks that force me out of my pristine bubble. I'll start small, maybe begin with public speaking or engage in a new art class where I don't already know the outcome." Jack leaned back, eyes alight with admiration. "Those are excellent ideas. And I'm in this with you. Maybe you could help me break away from my own walls, too. We could be accountability partners." The proposition sent a surge of exhilaration through her. She had not anticipated the collaborative spirit of their journey. It felt right, universal in its potential to heal not just her uncertainties, but his too. Yet lurking behind the excitement was a moment's hesitation. Was she really prepared to strip away the defenses? The remnants of her former self whispered cautions, chiding her for what felt like reckless optimism. "Okay." She met his gaze, determination set within her. "We'll push one another, but let's also outline specific goals. We can't stumble through this without intention." "Agreed," he replied. "Let's make a pact. We'll meet once a week, discuss our progress, and keep each other grounded." The gravity of their conversation solidified into a contract of mutual growth. It was thrilling, yet daunting. Both of them stepping beyond their comfort zones revealed raw truth beneath polished exteriors. As they transitioned into more personal territory, Sara realized there was still much about Jack she didn't know. What fears fed his meticulously constructed empire? The thought lingered tantalizingly in the corner of her mind, an opportunity that felt ripe for exploration. Diving deeper into personal realms required vulnerability, and with her pact of accountability spinning between them, Sara felt the pressure mount. Could she really do this? Expose parts of herself she had long hidden in anticipation of failure? Just as that question threatened to twist her insides, Jack broke the momentary silence. "So what's next? What do you want to tackle this week?" She paused, internalizing the weight of that inquiry. What if the week ahead pitted her against an unexpected confrontation with her deepest fears? What if the journey she dreamed of exploded into unforeseen challenges? In that electrifying moment, Sara knew she stood on the precipice of radical transformation. With the echoes of both anticipation and anxiety entwined, she was ready to plunge into the unknown. This wasn't merely about her growth. This shared commitment could unravel the heart of a complex man too. And suddenly, heavy with unspoken intrigue, a compelling question flickered in the back of her mind. What hidden stories lay beneath Jack's surface, waiting to be uncovered? The cafe buzzed with life around them, but within the little bubble formed by their discussions, the world seemed to fade. Sara felt the weight of her unvoiced aspirations shift as she contemplated the steps ahead. They had entered a delicate dance of accountability, a commitment that carried the promise of growth but also the potential sting of failure. "Let's lay it out then," she said, her voice firm yet laced with a palpable edge of uncertainty. "For my first challenge, I want to try public speaking. I've always avoided it, but I can feel that confronting this fear may be a necessary step to break the cycle I've trapped myself in." Jack leaned forward, engaged. "That's brave, Sara. We can find a local group or workshop that meets regularly. It might also help to pick a topic you're passionate about, something that ignites your enthusiasm." His support wrapped around her like a warm blanket, fortifying her resolve. Yet even within that momentary safety, echoes of doubt chased her thoughts. Could she genuinely adhere to this plan? What if she stumbled, or worse, froze in front of an audience? The familiar whispers of fear sang their toxic song, but today she felt less inclined to heed them. "Let's also discuss my visual art class," she continued, her confidence building, emboldened by the warmth of his attention. "I've been hesitant to put my work out there, but I think creating in a space with others could help me embrace the process. not just the outcome. Jack's eyes sparkled, curiosity piqued. Absolutely. Exploring creativity with no expectations could free you. It's all part of the journey. Her heart raced as she made a mental outline of the week ahead. 2 challenges, public speaking and a new art class. Both inherently terrifying, yet tantalizing, promising a whirlwind of experiences that could either build her or break her. "And for you?" she asked, shifting the focus, wanting to reciprocate his encouragement. "What will you confront this week?" Jack paused, vulnerability flickering across his features. "I want to share my work with a wider audience. I've kept parts of my art hidden, fearing they won't measure up to what people expect from me." His confession struck a chord. The layers he masked with confidence mirrored her own struggles. "We must be our own judges, not let expectations weigh us down," she offered, recognizing how intertwined their journeys were. "Agreed," he said with a nod, an urgency creeping into his demeanor. "We need to actively create spaces where we feel safe to be ourselves. How about I arrange a small exhibition for these pieces that I've been keeping private? A handful of friends, perhaps? It can't be the grand unveiling I've been envisioning, but it will force me into the light." The thought thrilled and terrified her simultaneously. The prospect of stepping into each other's creative spheres felt like standing on the edge of a precipice together. "I'll help you set it up," she promised lightly, but inside her apprehension danced. As their coffee cups drained and conversations flowed, something shifted in Sara. They were no longer just 2 individuals seeking permission to grow. They had become allies in facing the daunting labyrinth of their insecurities. But with each new idea and each reciprocal commitment, the shadows of doubt speckled her enthusiasm. Could she really support his journey while navigating her own? After all, what if she couldn't rise to the challenge? The fear loomed like storm clouds at the back of her mind, ready to unleash its torrent. "Let's reconvene in a week, see where we land," said Jack, his focus unshakable. A spark of excitement lingered in the air, a promise of evolution that both thrilled and terrified her. As they finished their meeting, anticipation melded with trepidation within her. What if, in peeling back the layers of their vulnerabilities, they uncovered not only truths about each other, but also about themselves in ways they hadn't anticipated? As they exited the cafe, Sara swung her gaze to Jack, feeling a magnetic pull toward the questions yet to be addressed. Would they shine light on the fears hiding behind their crafted facades? The journey was bound to be unpredictable, and Sara wondered just how deep they would have to go. "Do you think," Jack started, his voice trailing off, "that uncovering our stories might lead us to discover something truly transformative about ourselves?" She met his gaze, and the weight of his inquiry settled thickly in the space between them. Both players poised for the challenge ahead, their lives irrevocably intertwined by their pact. What revelations awaited them in the coming week, waiting to entangle them in a dance of authenticity, risk, and potential? Would they uncover truths powerful enough to upend their worlds? The first morning of her public speaking challenge dawned with an unsettling combination of eager anticipation and dread. Sara stood in front of her bathroom mirror, rehearsing her carefully curated speech for a local Toastmasters meeting. As she practiced, each word felt like a shaky foundation beneath her, threatening to crumble with the tiniest tremor of doubt. She could vividly visualize herself standing at the front, the room quiet, all eyes glued to her. What if her voice wavered? What if her mind blanked? Determined, she turned her focus inward. This was about confronting the brick wall of fear she'd built over the years. In the past, she had often convinced herself that she wasn't worth hearing. Deep breath, she told herself, releasing the pent-up tension coiling within her chest. Today was a new canvas, and she resolved to splash it with color, even if it risked spilling outside the lines. The community center's basement, infused with the scent of fresh coffee and the murmurs of early attendees, pulsed with a nervous energy. Sara's heart hammered as she entered, scanning the gathering for familiar faces, yet finding none. Her initial instinct was to turn around and retreat to the safety of her car. But she needed to push through. Jack's voice rang in her head, encouraging her to embrace the uncomfortable. She approached a table filled with pamphlets, forcing herself to engage with others rather than shrinking into the shadows. Each polite smile met with a nervous chuckle felt like a brick she was strategically chipping away from her wall. Gradually, she started to see them not as competitors or judges, but as fellow travelers on this winding road of self-discovery. When her name was finally called, she felt her pulse quicken, but instead of freezing, she took a deep breath and stepped forward, spilling out the prepared words that had been crafted with meticulous care. As she began, something remarkable happened. The tension eased. Each sentence she spoke felt less like a performance and more like a conversation. The audience nodded, their supportive expressions acting like fuel igniting her passion. With every word, her confidence swelled. Suddenly, her initial apprehension transformed into a sense of belonging in a space where vulnerability was celebrated rather than scorned. For those few precious minutes, she was no longer defined by fear. She was a storyteller, bridging the gap between her innermost thoughts and the resonant world outside. Finishing was a moment both exhilarating and surreal. The applause rang in her ears like a judgment she had long feared. Yet here she stood, a conquering version of herself who had just unraveled a long-held facade. People approached her afterward, complimenting her authenticity. That moment marked a shift within her, a realization that there was power in sharing one's voice, a newfound strength that pushed back against the spiraling doubts. Encouraged by this budding sense of courage, she shifted her attention to the art class starting later that week. She yearned to break the barriers around her creativity as she had begun to do with her speeches. The thought excited her, igniting a fire that she hadn't dared kindle before. As she drove home, exhilaration coursing through her veins, her mind darted to Jack. They had shared this path of exploration together, and it only deepened her connection to him. What would his exhibition feel like? Would he capture the same sense of bravery that she had just unearthed? Or would the shadows of self-doubt snake back in, dimming his light? The moment of truth loomed large on the horizon, and as she parked in her driveway, Sarah's heart swelled with anticipation. She was changing, evolving into someone she barely recognized, but this new identity brought with it a pang of insecurity over whether she could maintain this momentum. Was one successful experience enough? As nighttime fell, she couldn't shake the question. Would this growth endure, or would it dissipate like morning mist? The answer would unfold in the next chapter of her transformative journey. And as she stared into the darkened window, her reflection searching for reassurance, the ringing thought tethered itself to her heart. She would need to confront a deeper fear, one that loomed larger than any speech or exhibition. The fear of truly revealing herself to Jack, of showing him the most vulnerable parts of her soul. Would he accept her, or would he retreat into the comforting shadows of his own insecurities? The morning sun spilled light across Sarah's living room, illuminating the remnants of her path toward self-discovery. As she sipped her coffee, she reflected on the waves of courage she had been riding since joining Jack in their accountability pact. Last night had marked a pivotal moment. She had faced her fear of public speaking, and the remnants of self-doubt that had long been her companions were beginning to dissipate. Today was different. Today was about Jack, and the exhibition he had confidently planned to reveal the art he had kept hidden for so long. As she prepared, the stakes felt remarkably high. How would he react under the weight of exposure? This was a chance for them both to step beyond their previous facades, revealing not just their talents but the raw humanity beneath, their vulnerabilities. The gallery buzzed with vibrant energy as Sarah entered, conversations intertwined with laughter, echoing off the polished walls adorned with Jack's art. Each piece, carefully crafted, conveyed fragility and resilience. She understood now that they were mirrors to his struggles. She felt a wave of pride swell within her as she admired the artistry. He had truly laid himself bare. As she searched the crowd for Jack, her heart raced. When their eyes finally met, he broke into a smile, a blend of excitement and apprehension reflected in his gaze. He stepped toward her, and she could sense the gravity of the moment weighing on both their shoulders. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice steady but tempered with an edge of vulnerability. "I am," she replied, a determined nod accentuating her words. "But are you?" He hesitated, the weight of unspoken fears reflected in his eyes. "I'm terrified," he confessed. "But this is important. I finally want to be seen." Encouraged by his honesty, she squeezed his hand reassuringly. Then let's embrace whatever comes next, together. As the exhibition unfolded, attendees marveled at each piece, and Sara found herself swept up in the vibrant energy of shared appreciation. Jack's work breathed life, capturing the complexity of existence and human emotion. Each brushstroke seemed to tell a story of survival, resonate with echoes of their shared fears and triumphs. When it was time for him to address the crowd, Sara felt her heartbeat quicken. Jack stood before them, visibly shaken but unyielding. He began speaking, and his voice, though soft, was mighty, a testament to the journey he had traveled to reach this moment. He laid bare the struggles that had adorned each piece with profound significance, inviting onlookers to witness not just the art, but the man behind it. As Jack continued, Sara felt her breath hitch. He spoke of fear, vulnerability, and the courage it took to share one's truth. The stories he wove resonated deeply with her own. In that instant, she knew they were both transforming, not just as individuals, but as a united front challenging the shadows within themselves. When he finished speaking, the applause that followed reverberated in the room like a cleansing wave. Jack met her gaze, a grin spreading across his face as the realization of their shared commitment swelled between them like a beacon of light. In that moment, Sara understood that they had both conquered significant fears. He had exposed his artistry to the world, and she had learned, by his side, to confront her internal struggles. They were no longer alone. They buoyed each other in this uncharted territory of vulnerability. After the exhibition, the crowd began to disperse, and as Sara approached Jack amid the residual excitement, she felt a deeper connection. "You were incredible," she marveled, her voice tinged with pride. "Together," he reminded her, eyes sparkling, "I wouldn't have done it without our pact." Encouraged by his words, she took a leap of faith, stepping into the space they had cultivated, a place of real, honest communication. "Jack, about our journey. I've realized that my next challenge isn't just external. It's about us. I want to share more of myself with you, unrehearsed." He looked intently at her, the atmosphere thick with possibility. "I want that too." Their mutual acknowledgement of vulnerability felt liberating. The notion of opening up, of laying it all bare, was a joint endeavor, a chance to deepen the bond they had built. The rest of the evening unfolded in a blend of laughter and profound conversations, peeling back layers previously hidden. They spoke of childhood dreams and present worries, ambitions for the future, and the compelling journey that brought them together. With each word exchanged, Sara felt herself transforming even more. Previously chained by fear and expectation, she was now an empowered architect of her life, redefining her identity outside of judgment and obligation. She was on a path of perpetual growth, moving further away from the confines of her previous roles. She had reclaimed a voice and a vision for her own future. As they prepared to leave, Jack turned to her, sincerity etched into his expression. "You've inspired me more than you know. Together we can achieve anything we set our minds to." Sara smiled, her heart swelling with determination. "And we will. This is just the beginning." They stepped out into the cool night, the stars twinkling like promises awaiting fulfillment. Sara felt lighter, more secure in herself and her capabilities. They were no longer just two individuals battling inner demons. They were partners in exploration, fostering growth within themselves and each other. With newfound clarity, ambition, and courage, Sara felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The future was vivid, a canvas upon which to paint her life's masterpiece, just waiting to unfold. Now, as you reflect on Sara's transformative journey, let this be your call to action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire growth and courage. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others find these incredible journeys. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. What have you learned from Sara's experience? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, so they too can embark on their paths of self-discovery. Don't wait even one more second to support the channel and spread the message of personal overcoming stories. You need to show your support now.